Why is this mechanism so essential in our lives? Because the entire creation of the system of the world depends on the connection between the negative and positive particles, which together complete each other and become an existing structure, constant structure that can advance and develop, and any development and advancement is only as a result of particles connecting with other particles, both negative and positive, and this is how we see it is in the structure of an atom. Molecules, plus and minus, are connected between them. This is on the level of the physical forces, electrons, protons, and also in the forces that exist in biological matter. And that's how everything connects and sustains one another, and the form of life exists between them, not in the one nor in the other, but in the connection between the plus and the minus, the male and the female, and on the levels of the still vegetative animate and in human beings. On the levels of the still vegetative inanimate, it exists on the level of matter, and on the speaking level, the human level, it exists on the emotional level, which is above matter. And therefore, we have to understand that the need for sex is the need for life. It's a connection that leads us to development, the procreation of the new generation, like the connection between the elementary particles builds atoms and molecules and so on. Different forms of matter, starting with solid matter onto living matter and different forms. And therefore, this tendency is a very powerful one because by it, nature, which is developing our proximity towards one another, is realizing in us its general plan of bringing us to some kind of uh, predetermined development known as the thought of creation or the purpose of creation. And also, therefore, the human species, as it develops, the more it develops, then the need for sex grows. And we see it starting with the most primitive forms that existed and still exist, maybe in some primitive cultures that we discover in the Amazon and in Africa and other places. And it reaches more and more sophisticated forms, complex forms, the more we advance. And we see that humanity was always very occupied with it. And the matter of family and the belonging of a woman to a man, usually the woman belongs to a man, because it also has to do with the generation, with loyalty, with the fact that a man wants to develop and belong to the offsprings because usually he is the one that cares for the continuity, for what happens with them, protects them, feeds them, and so on. And even on the animate level, we see how animals and lions make sure that the female species belongs to him and not to another, and he has to be sure that the offsprings are his, and so on. This is something on a very deep level on the animate degree, and therefore it also exists in us. And also in the human species, we've added to it much of our culture around it. But all in all, it is in order to sustain those inclinations, urges, deep, inner, natural, primitive, instinctive urges that exist in us. Therefore, we have to see, and this is a matter for a very broad and wide research that I think that can be done here regarding sex throughout history, relations, the relations between the genders, between men and women throughout history and so on. I think that they are in the essence of all of humanity and culture and education, which we create, which we make, where eventually everything that we build, everything that we do has a relation to sex. Even psychologists say that in whatever we do, even if we build a building or make tools or create some forms at home, or we create machines, cars, whatever, subconsciously in everything we see male and female forms, where this is always set before our eyes and we're not even aware of it. But, and this is especially starting with the modern psychologists, Freud and on, where the matter of sex, the matter of a female body, the woman's body, or the men's body with their genitalia determines how do we build, how do we relate to different things, to different forms, even though that they have no connection. They might even have no connection to sexuality. So it follows that the matter of sex, where we're searching for how to connect with others and continue life, is in the foundation of the way we look at life, our inclusion. And turning to the wisdom of Kabbalah, then we understand even more that according to the wisdom of Kabbalah, all of us are aimed at being in a coupling, in a connection, spiritually wise, between us, in mutual completion and mutual connection, where each sees in the others a possibility to create a mental connection. And each one here is as a man and as a woman reciprocally as we connect with one another until up to the point of love, the expression of love, where there is reciprocal connection from each one towards the others, where we connect to the desire of the other and fulfill the desire of the other. The other, by that, or accordingly becomes the female and I become the male. Oh, again, please. I relate to others in terms of all of us having to return and once again be a unified humanity, where all of us are connected together, to return to the connected form as it was before the sin of Adam Arishon, the first Adam. So we have to be as one man and one heart, meaning that everyone has to connect with the desires of the others and fulfill them, meaning that I suppose fulfill Oren's desire and your desires. And in this respect, you are as a female and I am as a male, spiritually wise. And I, towards you, also have to be as a female, where you can fulfill my desires. No one can fulfill his own desires. This is what humanity has to understand, where it's now in a developmental phase where no one can calm himself down, calm his ego down. And we're arranged in such a way that all of us comprise some kind of a form of a general system, complete system. where all of its parts are interconnected, like the organs of a body in a person's body, where each functions in order to correctly operate all of the parts of the others. And then we have to be drawn towards one another in order for each one of us to fulfill the desires of the others, the desires for connection. And therefore, each one of us has both a male part in order to fulfill others and the female part to receive from others. So what is the female part in spirituality and the male part in spirituality? The female part in spirituality is where I'm willing to receive a fulfillment from others, and the male part in spirituality where I'm willing to fulfill everyone according to their desires, according to their female part. This is what the wisdom of Kabbalah teaches us.